Hello and welcome to Home with Sarah Jane. Today I wanted to share the update to week 2 of my no spend month. So hello, if you're new here, my name is Sarah and I'm a homeschooling mom to 2 girls, ages 10 and 14. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for stopping by once again. I do really appreciate you. So, week 2. This one I struggled a little bit more. If you're unfamiliar what I'm talking about, I do recommend that you go back and you watch my no spend month video and then my week 1 update, just so that you're all caught up before you watch this one. But yeah, so in week 1, I talked about how it wasn't really that hard. We still had a lot on hand. We weren't really running out of anything. I was surprised about that, you know, $50 didn't really get me much when it came to groceries, because that's the amount that I had set as a goal each week for fresh produce and dairy. But yeah, I feel like I did a little bit better on the grocery part of it. So today I just kind of wanted to share what we spent this week, or, you know, in week 2, the groceries that we got, the meals, and anything that we tried new recipe-wise, and how it's actually going, whether or not I spent any money or not. So this week was harder, and it wasn't just about, you know, the grocery part of it. I really am struggling right now with wanting to shop. I'm having a really hard time. I just want to buy something. I just want to buy something. So what I'm doing to help me with that is that I did start shopping for Easter, but instead of buying anything, I'm making wish lists, and I'm putting together a wish list of things that I want to pick up for Easter after my no spend month is over. So that's kind of what I've been doing, is I've just been shopping around and making like a list of things that I might possibly want to get for my kids for Easter. And that's been kind of helping me a little bit with being able to kind of like shop, even though I'm not technically spending any money. So I am struggling there, but I thought that putting my focus on my kids' Easter baskets and things for Easter was, you know, a pretty good idea for me, because normally I would already be buying their Easter stuff. And because I'm in a no spend month, I'm just not, you know? So I just thought it'd be a really good idea for me to put like a wish list together. So after I'm done with this, I'm not scrambling at the last minute in March trying to figure out what to do for their Easter baskets. So that's been helping me a lot. Also for our groceries. So for our groceries, I did want to let you know that we spent $46 even at the grocery store this week. And I felt like I did a little bit better here. I was able to get a little bit more produce. I will insert a little, you know, clip of the groceries that we got. But I felt like I did a little bit better here. I felt like in week 1, I really did not get much. And I was kind of like stressing out just a little bit that I set myself a budget so low for how expensive everything is. But I felt that I did a better job in week 2. As you can see, I feel like I got a little bit more, and I did make sure that I was more aware about what produce and things like that were on sale to really stretch my budget. Now, another thing I wanted to mention about this whole grocery thing is that typically when I'm not in a no spend month, I would do a lot of like grocery delivery type of services and things like that. And this really kind of opened my eyes to how much extra I was paying. And I mean, when I was going through like the service fees, and then you're leaving a tip, and you know, if they make an adjustment and you pay more for an item or whatever, it really adds up. So this is really pointed out that sometimes when I'm getting my groceries delivered, I'm paying like an extra $12. Now, I know that doesn't sound like much, but when my budget for each week is only $50, and if $12 is going into tips and service fees, that doesn't leave me with much. So I am actually going out to the grocery store and picking up my own produce, which I prefer to pick up my own produce anyway, but I'm just saying I'm not using a grocery delivery right now. Just help me save money. But that's been something that's been helping me. Now, I know some people might think that that's kind of weird, like going to the store, but I'm specifically going to a certain store to make sure that I'm not going to Target. You know, I am going more to like some place like Sprouts, you know, something that is specifically a grocery store, so that I'm not spending any extra money while I'm there. And also what I'm doing is I'm creating a list before I go so that I have something in mind. So I'll take a look at the sales online, I'll make a list of the things I want to pick up, and then I'll pick only those items up, and I will use self-checkout and leave the store. No, it's been challenging. It's been really, really challenging. But yeah, so my grocery order, again, it was only $46. I felt like I did a little bit better this week. And I do want to also touch on homeschool. My homeschool supplies and homeschool whatever I want to get for homeschool, I'm not buying anything for homeschool right now. So that's also been challenging because we decided, me and my youngest daughter who's in the 5th grade, we decided that we kind of wanted to slow down on our history and dive deeper into a certain subject of history and or time frame in history. And normally what I would do is I'd go to the used bookstore where I'm buying books for only like 50 cents, and I would go down there and I will find books based on what she wants to dive deeper in. Well, I'm not doing that. So I'm trying to dive deeper in certain topics and subjects with her with using what we have on hand. Now, I mean, don't feel that sorry for me right now, okay? That's not what I'm trying to get anybody to feel. I have a large library in my home. There's no reason I can't pull something at least decent together for these areas that she wants to go through. I think it's just that urge of wanting to buy something that I'm really struggling with, and especially books. I love to buy books, beyond books, which is why I do have a huge library in my home. But I'm putting together these little like unit study type of things for my 5th grader with just things that I have on hand. And I'm finding that it's actually, I don't know, it's kind of helping me with spending my time putting things together and using things that I already have. And it is, what is that? I don't know what that was. Anyway, so it's forcing me to use what I already have, which is, I love that. That's the whole point of this no spend month. And I realize kind of the things that I have a lot on in my library and the things that I kind of need to focus on maybe going forward after this no spend. So, I mean, lessons, there are lessons being learned for me. But let's get into like the meals and stuff. So breakfast, pretty much the same. My kids were still just eating like granola. I think they finished off the rest of the like packaged cereals, you know, the ones that aren't that great for you. So they did finish off those cereals. I've been making granola. They finished off all of the frozen waffles that I had pre-made and frozen myself, and all of the frozen muffins this second week. So I did make a batch of lemon scones. I'll insert a picture. This isn't a new recipe. This just happens to be one of our favorite recipes. And if you're interested in these lemon scones, which are really, really good, like fantastic, I do have a video on them that I can link in the description. So that's all we pretty much did for breakfast, which is kind of funny because one of our meals for dinner was breakfast for dinner, and it was way more breakfasty, I felt, than any of the breakfasts we had this week. But anyway, for lunches, pretty much the same, just charcuterie boards of random things, a lot of fruit. They still had like granola. But yeah, nothing major for lunch. We don't really do too much for lunch. But now for dinner, I have my little notes so I can tell you what I made because I don't even remember what we ate yesterday. But pork chops. So the very first night we had pork chops with homemade applesauce and a baked potato. It was good. I mean, there's not much more I could say about that. And then the second night we had chicken fajitas with Spanish rice and homemade flour tortillas. Now I can't take credit for these flour tortillas. My brother actually made these, and I asked him, you know, can we have a few? So that's how I got the flour tortillas. But I really needed to use up some of the frozen vegetables inside of my freezer. They were vegetables that I froze over last gardening season. So I just really wanted to use them up before they started getting freezer burned. So that's where these bell peppers came from, was just from my garden that I had, you know, frozen. And, you know, of course we already had chicken and rice and all of that. Now on the third night we had ribs. I love my husband's barbecue ribs. They're so good. He makes them in the Instant Pot and they're just so tender, super yummy. I just randomly found like 3 racks of ribs inside of our freezer, our outside freezer. And So yeah, he made ribs, and then those ribs, we had enough that like it even went into being lunches for a couple of days for us, so I forgot to mention that. But with these ribs, my husband just made some homemade french fries, and I forgot to take a picture of it, but we also had like a side salad with this. Most of these dinners actually had a side salad that I just forgot to take a picture of, so you know, keep that in mind. And then on another night we had chicken tacos with homemade corn tortillas. These I just served with snacking peppers, and on this one we actually had canned corn with it, but I forgot to film that. So you're only going to see the chicken tacos and snacking peppers. Now my kids did not like the snacking peppers, so they just ate the chicken and the corn, but yeah, my husband and I had those little peppers with it. Another night we had burgers and fries. Again, I was still trying to use up some hamburger buns that I had in the freezer, so burgers and fries, of course, and my kids are a huge fan of that. And again, my husband made the fries because he makes them so good. Now, again, like I did in the first week, the ground beef that I had was actually a 2-pound pack, so I was able to split that into 2 meals. So on one night we had these burgers and fries, and then on the next night we had Mongolian beef. And with this recipe, I wanted to use up the green onions, and I wanted to use up, you know, the extra beef and the pasta. This, I think, may have been the last box or bag of pasta that I needed to use up that was about to expire. So I'm super glad that that didn't get wasted. And then the last meal we had was actually on Valentine's Day. And so February, what month are we in? Yeah, February 14th. So the last dinner that we had was Marry Me Chicken. I did not plan Marry Me Chicken on Valentine's Day. It just kind of happened that way. And this chicken was actually really good. I'd never made it before, and I was trying to use up some heavy cream, and I was trying to use up some cherry tomatoes before they went bad. So I made this, it was almost like a Alfredo-y creamy chicken. It was really good. And I did serve this one with marinated tomatoes and a side salad. The recipe called for, what are those tomatoes called? Sun-dried tomatoes. I don't really care for sun-dried tomatoes, so I just used cherry tomatoes in place of that, and it still came out really, really good. Now, when it came down to, you know, this week was Valentine's Day, I talked about it in another video, I think the original no spend video, that my husband and I decided we weren't going to buy ourselves anything for Valentine's Day, or each other anything for Valentine's Day. Well, my husband, it was funny because the receipt was still in the bag. He purchased me a bag of like sour candy to give to me for Valentine's Day, and he purchased it on January 31st. So he still didn't break our, you know, no spend February. It was funny to me that, you know, on the very last day before our no spend, he remembered to go and get me something. So that was really sweet. And he said it made him feel better because I did one of the recipes that I tried out for the first time. I actually made him for Valentine's Day, and I made him these like pecan caramel clusters. They were actually really good. So I made him some homemade candy with some of the things that we had on hand, and he said that he felt so much better that he had bought me something before the no spend because I made him homemade candy for Valentine's Day, so he didn't feel like I didn't do anything, or that he didn't do anything for me. So yeah, but these little pecan cluster candies, so good, and they weren't that hard to make. And actually one of the ingredients was sweetened condensed milk, you know, that you would put into the caramel sauce. And I had a couple of cans that I needed to use before they expired, so it was the perfect candy to make because I even had extra pecans, or pecans, however you'd like to say them. But yeah, so those were really, really good. And another recipe that I tried for the first time was saltine crackers. Now, these aren't beautiful, I know that, and for some reason, I have like 100 cookie cutters and not one of them is a square. So I made like these like kind of round saltine crackers. They came out really good. They weren't beautiful, but they were really good, really crisp, and my kids loved them. Oh, that was another thing. My daughter Bella actually used some of the crackers to serve with tuna and like canned chicken salad. She used some of these crackers for lunches and stuff like that. So that's another thing that they had for lunches that I keep on forgetting about. But yeah, so these saltine crackers, these pecan cluster, turtle, whatever they're called, candies, those were the two recipes that I tried new this week, and they were really good. Again, that Marry Me chicken was new too, but I don't know. I didn't feel like it was that like out of the box, you know? I felt like the candy and the crackers were just something a little bit different for me to make, and we did enjoy both of those. So no gross orange peel, or what were those last week? They were like candied orange peels that I tried to make. Disgusting. They were gross. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch week 1's update. No, it was not a good recipe. Well, at least maybe I messed it up or something. It was just gross. But that is pretty much the update. Again, nothing was found in any of our canned goods, so that's a bonus. And again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch that first week update because we found something in our canned food. Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty good. I feel that the hardest part for me at this point is just not shopping. Food wise, I feel like it went really, really well. I still don't feel like we're making anything really weird. Again, sometimes when you go into these challenges, food could start getting weird. Like you're coming up with really strange recipes, which is part of the fun. But I did notice that when I went inside my freezer out in my garage, I might be able to do this challenge just maybe a little bit longer. So I'm going to kind of look into it, see if maybe I'll stretch this to maybe 5 weeks or 6 weeks, but we'll see because I'm already kind of struggling. But if you have any questions, please leave it in the comment section. Thank you so much for stopping by. You have a great day. Bye.